Good morning, guys. I think in the last class we have studied the basic concept. Under that, we have seen some fundamental concepts of chemistry. Now, in this class, we are going to start general laws and principles of chemical combination. The laws that governs the chemical changes we are going to discuss. There are some laws which are fundamental things whenever we deal with chemical change. In order to write a chemical formula or in order to predict the amount of product obtained by a particular chemical reaction. So all these things are basically predicted from based on certain rules and principles. So those are called as the laws of chemical combination, right? We'll see what are the different laws of chemical combinations. Laws of chemical combination. In chemistry, we have to deal with various chemical reactions, right? First of all, you need to understand the main difference between the chemical change and physical change. Chemical changes are those changes where composition of the substances changes. As a result of chemical change, always we get a new substance. Whereas in a physical change, you don't get a new substance. Basically, the existing substance changes its physical state. Any sort of physical property, either maybe taste, color, physical state, or anything may be changed. But whereas in chemical change, always there is a formation of new substances with which is associated with the change in the composition of the undergoing substances, right? So, in order to predict the proper product and their chemical composition, we need to understand certain basic principles which are called as laws of chemical combination. We will see what are the different laws. The first one is called as law of conservation of mass. Law of conservation of mass. And the second law is law of definite proportion. Law of definite proportion. And the third law we can say law of multiple proportion. Law of multiple proportions. And there is one more law which is called as law of reciprocal proportion. Reciprocal proportion. And one more law which we can say there is also called law of combining values. Combining gaseous values, or it can also be called as a Gay-Lussac law. What we can also call it as? It can also be called as a Gay-Lussac law of combining values. So these are the some laws that we are going to discuss in today's class. So we will see one by one. If we are talking about the first law, as we are all familiar with this first law, what is this law of conservation of mass? Right? This is a basic law which governs all chemical reactions. Right? What is meant by conservation of mass? Right? The term conservation itself tells that there is no loss or gain of anything. Whatever existing is there, whatever the existing mass is there, that is going to be retained without any loss or without any gain. That is the meaning of conservation, right? So this particular law was given by, this was proposed by a scientist called Lavoisier. Lavoisier is a scientist who has proposed the law of conservation of mass in 1789, in the year 1789. Right? He is also regarded as father of modern chemistry, right? For his work done in the chemistry. Right? Now, according to this law, during a chemical reaction, generally what happens? During a chemical reaction, matter is neither created nor destroyed. During a chemical reaction, matter is neither created nor destroyed. What is meant by this? Matter can transform one form into the other form. One type of matter will change into the other type of matter without losing any mass or without gaining any mass. So that is the meaning of conservation of law of conservation of mass. Now if you apply these to a chemical reaction, if you are applying these to a chemical reaction, what is mean by this? Let us see. In a chemical reaction, according to this law, the mass of products should be equal to mass of reactant undergoing reaction. That means what are the amount of reactant are undergoing reaction, the same amount of products must be produced without any, as there is no loss of mass. So this is the main aspect of the law of conservation of mass. For example, if you are, let us discuss with an example. Suppose if you consider reaction between hydrogen and hydrogen and oxygen, which gives rise to H2. This is a general reaction between hydrogen and water. This generally takes place at very high temperature. So when hydrogen gas reacts with oxygen gas, it produces water. Right? Now, if you apply this law of conservation of mass to this particular chemical reaction, let us interpret the weight relationship of reactant as well as products. Whatever we write on the left side of the reaction, we call them as reactant, and whatever we write on the right side of the reaction, we call as products. Basically what happens, reactants are those substances which will undergo chemical change, and products are those substances which are obtained as a result of chemical change. Right? This is a new substance that is being obtained by the chemical reaction of hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. Now if you try to interpret the weight relation between the reactant and products, what are the reactants here? There are two reactants, one is hydrogen gas, another one is oxygen gas. These two together will form water. Now if you determine how many grams of hydrogen is getting reacting with how many grams of oxygen, and as a result of this how many grams of water is being produced, let us try to interpret that. Here, as we know that the mass of hydrogen molecule is at 2 grams. One hydrogen atom is 1 mole of hydrogen atom weighs 1 gram, whereas 1 mole of hydrogen molecule weighs 2 grams. So that here 2 grams of hydrogen is being reacted with and 1 mole of oxygen. What is mean by 1 mole of oxygen? What is the mass, molar mass of oxygen molecule? Right? It is 32 grams. Now, what is the molar mass of water? Water contains 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. We know that the mass of 2 hydrogen atoms is 2 grams. If you are talking about 1 mole and oxygen is 16, so it becomes 18 grams. Now, if you see, according to the law of conservation of mass, this particular equation is incorrect. Why? See, if you see on the reactant side, what is the total mass of the reactant? Here 2 plus 32. Here it is 34 grams of reactant is undergoing reaction, and how many grams of product is being produced? Only 18 grams. Right? So what this law of conservation of mass says? The mass of reactant or the mass of products obtained must be equal to the mass of reactant undergoing reaction. So according to this law of conservation of mass, this particular law equation is incorrect. And what is the main application of law of conservation of mass is that it advises us to balance the chemical reaction. This is where we start balancing the reaction. The stoichiochemistry or stoichiometry of a chemical reactions is an application of law of conservation of mass. We balance the reaction because the reaction has to, the equation has to obey the law of conservation of mass. If the reaction is not obeying law of conservation of mass, that particular equation is incorrect. So in order to apply this law of conservation of mass, we need to balance this. This is an unbalanced reaction. So because of that, it is not obeying the law of conservation of mass. In order to obey the law of conservation of mass, we need to balance it. So when you balance this particular equation, what happens? Let us see the balancing of H2 plus O2 gives rise to H2. Now how to balance this? Take 2 moles of H2, so that you will get the 2 moles of water. Now it is balanced. How to verify the balance? On either side of the equation, number of atoms of each element should be same. So this is the same balanced equation. This interpretation of data from the balanced chemical equation is called as stoichiometry. Stoichiometry is a branch of chemistry which basically deals with the interpretation of so much data from the balanced chemical equation. Now let us see here what is the mass of hydrogen gas now undergoing chemical equation. Here 2 into 2, it will be 4 grams, right? Now here it will be 32 grams. Now what is the molar mass of one water molecule? 18 grams. How many water molecules has been produced? 2. So what is the mass here? It will be 36 grams. Now let us see what is the total mass of reactant undergoing reaction. This is 36 grams. And what is the total mass of product produced? 36 grams. Now this particular reaction seems to obey the, what is the basic rule? The mass of reactant undergoing reaction, this is the mass of reactant undergoing reaction, should be equal to the mass of product produced. Right? This is an application of law of conservation of mass. The main application is that it advises us to balance the chemical equation in such a way that the mass of the reactant undergoing chemical reaction will become equal to the mass of the products produced in the chemical reaction. Now, from this what we can say, the total mass of reaction, the total mass of reaction is always equal to the total mass of products plus mass of unreacted reactants. Right? This is a very important statement. Sometimes the total amount of reactant may not undergo chemical reaction. Okay, this you will understand when we discuss the limiting reagent. There it says that some of the reactant may be in excess, some of the reactant may be in less quantity. In that cases, what happens? The complete amount of the reactant will not participate in the reaction. So the product form will be, in that case, generally it will not be completely equal to the mass of the reactant. So in that case, the total mass of the reaction must be equal to total mass of product plus mass of unreacted reactants. Whatever the reactants that are left unreacted in the reaction, that also be included in the calculation of total mass of the reaction. This is an important, very important basic law of chemistry or chemical combination. Right? Hope it is clear. This says that the mass of the reactant should be equal to the mass of the products produced in a chemical reaction, since there is no loss of mass during a chemical reaction. Right? Hope it is clear so far. Now, what is the main application, or if you are talking about the application of this particular law? Chemical equations are balanced, right? This is balancing of chemical equation is the main application of according to law of conservation of mass. In order to obey the law of conservation of mass, you need to balance the chemical equations. And what is the main limitation? If you are talking about the limitation of this particular limitation of law of conservation of mass, it is not applicable. It is not applicable for nuclear reactions. What is mean by nuclear reactions? The reactions with, right? Nuclear reactions are basically two types: nuclear fusion or nuclear fission. In the nuclear fusion, what happens? Two lighter nuclei will combine to form a heavier nuclear, whereas in nuclear fission, an heavier nuclear will split into two or more than two lighter nuclei. These reactions are called as nuclear reactions. So the nuclear reactions, what happens? Always these nuclear reactions are associated with certain loss of mass. Whatever the mass that is being lost in the nuclear reaction, that will be converted into the energy. So for that reason, this law of conservation of mass is generally not applied for the nuclear reactions. Right? Hope it is clear. And suppose whatever the loss of mass is there in that particular nuclear reaction, that will be converted into energy, which has to be calculated by using the equation equal to delta mc square. Right? What is delta here? Delta is that here E is the energy produced, delta n is the mass defect we call it as. Mass defect we call it as. What are the loss of mass is there, that is indicated with the delta. Right? Where c is the velocity of light. Right? What is c? Velocity of light. Right? Suppose in a chemical reaction, assume that we are dealing with a nuclear fusion reactions where 2 grams of hydrogen gas is combining to give helium. Right? Suppose in that only if you get only 1 gram of helium, so what we say, there is a loss of 1 gram of hydrogen gas. Where is this 1 gram of hydrogen gas is gone? It has been converted into the energy. Right? If you substitute the mass defect in this formula, you can calculate the energy that is being produced by the loss of mass. Right? For example, let us assume that there is a 0.001 kg mass is lost in a chemical reaction. It must be a nuclear reaction when only there will be the loss of mass. Then calculate the energy produced. Okay, what is the mass defect? This delta is what is this? 0.001 kg. Right? What is C? C is nothing but 3 × 10⁸ meter per second. Now, if you substitute this data, this can I write it as 10⁻³ kg. If you put this data into this, that is 1 × 10⁻³ into what is this? 3 × 10⁸, the whole square. It comes to be 10⁻³ 9 × 10⁻16. Right? So, if you simplify this, you will get 9 × 10⁻13. 9 × 10⁻13. What are the units? kg, meter square, second inverse square. This can also be called as, what is this entire unit is equal to? In the last class we have seen kg, meter square, second inverse is called as, second inverse 2 is called as, what is this called? Joule. This much amount of energy will be produced when there is a certain loss of mass. This is one of the limitation of law of conservation of mass, which cannot be applicable for the nuclear reactions. Hope it is clear. Now, we will talk about the second law. What is the second law? Law of definite proportion. Definite, or we can also call it as it is also called law of constant proportion. Constant or fixed proportion we call it. Right? It was proposed by Joseph Proust in around 1790s. What this law says mainly, a given compound always contains the same elements in the fixed ratio by their mass. This is law of definite proportion or law of constant proportion or law of fixed proportion. A given compound always contains the same element in the fixed ratio of their mass irrespective of method of preparation. Whatever method used for the preparation, okay, that compound always contains the same element in the same ratio by their masses. That is the meaning of law of definite proportion. Let us discuss with an example. We are talking about an example. Let us take the same example of water. Water always contains, whatever method used to prepare the water, it always contains, if you are talking about the molar ratio of water, molar ratio if you are talking, molar ratio is actually 2:1 is, right? That means 2 moles of hydrogen gas or 2 moles of hydrogen atoms are present in 1 mole of oxygen, right? Or water is made by when 2 moles of hydrogen atoms with 2 moles of hydrogen atoms and 1 mole of oxygen atoms. This is the molar ratio of water. If you are talking about the mass ratio, what is the mass ratio? How many grams of hydrogen is present? 2 grams. How many grams of oxygen is present? 1 atom of oxygen. What is the mass of 1 atom of oxygen? 16 grams. Right? So what is the simplest ratio of this mass of hydrogen and oxygen in water? We can simplify this as, what is this? This is 1:8 ratio. Right? Whatever method used for the preparation of water, water always contains hydrogen and oxygen, right? By what is their mass ratio? 1:8. This is the simplest ratio of their masses by which they combine always to give water, right? Or if you are talking about the molar ratio, they will be always in 2:1 ratio. For example, let us see what are the different ways of water that can be produced. The first, we can produce water by the reaction between hydrogen, oxygen. It also gives water. Alright. Another method, suppose always in acid-base reactions also we will get the water. It will use NaCl plus H2. Here also we get the water. Or you may also get the water from the when bicarbonates of alkali metals are heated, they form carbonate plus carbon dioxide plus water. Like this, there are different ways to prepare the water. What are the method used for the preparation? So this is directly from its constituent elements. Water is composed of 2 elements, hydrogen and oxygen. So you can prepare any compound from its constituent elements directly. So when hydrogen and oxygen gas is treated at high temperature, it will be converted into water. This water also contains the same ratio, the same mass ratio of hydrogen and oxygen, which is nothing but this. What is the simplest ratio? 1:8. So it can also be produced by the reaction of acid and bases. This is sodium hydroxide and this HCl. It also leads to the formation of water along with the formation of salt. And water formed here also it contains the same mass ratio of hydrogen and oxygen. Right? So it also be produced by the thermal decomposition of bicarbonates of alkali metals, which will also give rise to water as well as carbon dioxide. It is also having the same mass ratio of hydrogen and oxygen. So this law it can also be applicable for various examples also. What is the main advantage of this particular law is that it will help us to calculate the percentage composition of element and which is used to calculate the molecular formula of the compound. The main application of this particular law of constant proportion or law of definite proportion is that, let us see the application. Application is that you need to remember application as well as limitation. It is used to calculate percent composition of element from which molecular formula is calculated. Molecular formula is calculated. What is meant by percentage composition? Percentage composition tells that how many parts of a particular element is present in 100 parts of a particular compound. We are going to discuss about this percentage composition as well as determination of empirical formula and molecular formula in further classes. Just remember that the main application of this law of definite composition or law of definite proportion is that it will always useful in a determination of percentage composition, but generally this percentage composition of an element is given by mass of element in the compound upon molar mass of compound into 100. We are going to discuss that in the further of this chapter. The main limitation, if you are talking, limitation is that discovery of isotopes put a limitation for this law. What is mean by this? Suppose let us take H2O in which oxygen is in O16 form. Oxygen has two isotopes. One will be O16 and one will be O8. What is meant by isotopes? Right? These are the atoms that are having same atomic number but different mass number. Right? Now, if you calculate the mass ratio of this photomolecule and this photomolecule, as we have already calculated, this is 2 grams or 2 parts of hydrogen by mass is coming with 16 parts of mass of oxygen. In the simplified version, it will be this is the simplest mass ratio of oxygen and hydrogen in water, O16. And here, what is this? 2 parts of hydrogen is coming with 18 parts of oxygen. So the simplest ratio will become 1:9. So this is violating the law of definite proportionation. So like this, whenever there is an isotopes involved in any chemical compound, they do not obey this particular law of definite proportion or law of definite law of constant proportion. Hope it is clear. This can be applicable for any compound. If you take carbon dioxide always contains, what is the molar ratio of the carbon dioxide? Carbon and 1:2 ratio oxygen. Right? What is the mass ratio? It will be equal to what is the atomic mass of carbon? 12. And what is the mass of oxygen in the compound? 2 oxygen atoms means 32. 12 parts of carbon is combined with the 32 parts of oxygen. So what is the simplest ratio? The simplest ratio will be 3:8. Right? Like this. What are the method used for the preparation of carbon dioxide? One molecule of carbon dioxide always contains carbon and oxygen in a fixed ratio by their mass. What is the simplest ratio of mass of carbon and oxygen which always combines to form a carbon dioxide molecule? It will be 3:8. Hope it is clear. We will move to the next one. What is the next one? Third one, law of multiple proportion. This was proposed by John Dalton in the year 1880. This law says that when two elements combines to give two or more than two compounds, then the mass of one element that combines with fixed mass of other element is always a simple whole number ratio of their masses. This is the law of multiple proportion. When two elements, right, are combining to form two or more than two compounds, the mass of one element that is combining with the fixed mass of other element will be always a simple whole number ratio of their masses. Let us see with an example. Suppose if you are talking about, let us take two elements, carbon and oxygen. They will combine to form two compounds. They can give carbon monoxide as well as carbon dioxide. Now, here if you see, carbon and oxygen are combining to form two compounds, right? Carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Now here we have fixed the mass of one element, right? Which element is being fixed? Here 12 grams. Let us see their mass ratio. This is 12 grams of oxygen is combining with the 16 parts of oxygen. Here 12 parts of oxygen is combining with the 32 parts of oxygen. Now we have fixed the mass of carbon, right? And the mass of oxygen that is combining with the fixed mass of carbon will bear always a simple whole number ratio of its mass. That means if you see here, the mass of oxygen that combines with 12 parts of carbon is 16:32. What is the simplest ratio of this particular mass? We can say it, that is 1:2. Are you getting this? The mass of oxygen that is combining the fixed mass of carbon will be always a simple whole number ratio of its mass, right? If you want, you can also illustrate another example. Let us see nitrogen and oxygen. Let us see. They will form different compounds like N2O. N2O. It's a dimer of nitric oxide. I have taken the dimer, right? N2O3, N2O4, N2O5. If you see their mass ratio, how many atoms of nitrogen is there? 2 atoms. What is the mass of 2 nitrogen atoms? 28 parts. And what is the mass of 1 oxygen? 16 parts. Right here, if you see N2O2, this is the dimer of nitric oxide. Dimer of nitric oxide I have taken. Right now, here, what is this? 28 grams of oxygen is combining with 32 grams of oxygen, whereas here 28 grams of nitrogen is combining with how many grams? 48 grams of oxygen. 3 oxygen atoms, 1 oxygen atom is 16 grams. Total 3 oxygen atoms together will be 48. Otherwise, you can take 28 is to what is this? 64. 4 oxygen atoms, whereas here 5 oxygen atoms. How much it comes? 28 is to how much it is? 80. Now we have fixed the mass of nitrogen and the mass of oxygen. So if you see, the mass of oxygen combines with the 28 parts of the nitrogen will be a simple whole number ratio of its mass. Right? What we can say? Mass of oxygen that combines with 28 parts of nitrogen. Nitrogen is, what is this? 16 is to 32 is to, what is this? The ratio of mass of oxygen. What is we are talking about? Ratio of mass of oxygen that combines with 28 grams of nitrogen to form different compounds. So what is this? 48, 64 and 80. What is the simplest ratio? 1 is to 2 is to 3 is to 4 is to, right? 5. Are you getting this? This illustrates the law of multiple proportion. Whenever two elements are combining to form two or more than two compounds, compounds, the mass of one element that is combining the fixed mass of other element will be always bears a simple whole number ratio of its mass. Right? It can be applicable for all the compounds. Hope it is clear. And what is the limitation of this particular law is that limitation is that it is not applicable. It is not applicable for non-stoichiometric compounds. What is meant by non-stoichiometric compounds? The compounds which do not obey any fixed composition. Suppose FeO 0.93, right? This type of compounds do not obey the law of multiple proportion. Hope it is clear. Now, what is the next one? Law of reciprocal proportion. This was proposed by Richard. Okay. According to this law, what it says is that when two elements separately combines with fixed mass of a third element, then the mass ratio in which they do so either C are a simple whole number multiple of their masses in which they combine with each other. Right? When two elements separately combine with a fixed mass of third element, then the mass ratio in which they do so are the same or a simple whole number multiple of their masses in which they combine with each other. Let us try to understand with an example. Right? Most of you guys will have confusion about this. Let us take three elements. We'll take hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur. These are the three elements. Now, assume that we are taking sulfur, oxygen and hydrogen. Sulfur and hydrogen combines to give a molecule called H2S. And hydrogen oxygen combines to give a molecule H2. Right? Now, if you are talking about this H2, right? What is the mass ratio of hydrogen and oxygen H2? Two parts of hydrogen is combining with 16 parts of oxygen. Right? If you are talking about H2S, two parts of hydrogen is combining with 32 parts of sulfur. Right? Now, these two are the two elements which are separately combining with fixed mass of third element. What is the fixed mass of this third element? Two parts. Right? And when these two elements are combining together, they will always combine in the same ratio of their masses, or it will be a simple whole number ratio of their masses. Right? A factor of simple whole number ratio of their masses. For example, if sulfur and oxygen combines, they gives a compound called SO2. Right? If you are talking about the SO2, the mass ratio of sulfur and oxygen here 32 is to 32. 32 parts of sulfur is combining with 32 parts of oxygen. That means they are combining in the same ratio of their masses. Or it may be either same or it may be either in the a simple multiple of simplest ratio of the multiple of 60:32. Right? This particular law illustrates that. What is the main application of this law is that? If you are talking about application, it helps us to understand the concept of equivalent weights. We are going to study about this particular concept in the next further in this chapter only. What is meant by equivalent mass? In a chemical reaction, substances always participate in the simple ratio of their equivalent masses. And what is meant by equivalent mass we will discuss in the further in this chapter only. Just remember that it helps us to understand the concept of equivalent masses. This is about the law of reciprocal proportion. Would you clear? And what is the last law that is left to discuss in this particular concept? Law of combining values or Gay-Lussac's law of equalities. Law of combining values of gases. This particular law is applicable for the gases. Right? It is being proposed by Gay-Lussac's. Because of that, it is also called Gay-Lussac's law of combining volume of gases. Combining volume of gases. Now, here gaseous reactants. You can say this as gaseous reactants always combines in the simple ratio of their values. Simple ratio of their values. Simple ratio of their values. If product is also a gas, then it will also then reactants, gaseous reactants and products will always be or always be in the simple ratio of the values. Right? With an example you will understand this. For example, if you take the reaction between hydrogen gas combining with oxygen gas to form water vapor. Now, what is a balanced equation? According to the law of conservation of mass, you should balance the equation because the mass of reactant is not equal to the mass of product. So balance the equation 2 and we get the 2 moles of water. Now, here all the 3 substances, that is reactants as well as products, are gases. Now, you know what else? 2 values. How many values? 2 values of hydrogen gas is combining with 1 volume of, what is this? Oxygen gas, and to form 2 values of water vapor. So, what is the ratio by values of combination? It is 2:1:2 ratio. Suppose if you are talking about H2 plus Cl2 gives as HCl, right? According to the stoichiometry, you balance it. Now, what is the ratio here? 1 volume of hydrogen gas is combining with 1 volume of chlorine gas to produce how many values of all the 3 are products? Sorry, all the 3 are gases. So 2 volumes of. So what is the ratio of the values that these reactants are reacted and the products are produced? It is simply 1:1:2 ratio. Right? Now, one more important thing is that under similar conditions of temperature and pressure, when this law is obeyed under the similar conditions of temperature and pressure. Pressure and temperature should be constant in order to follow the Gill-Lewis law. If either temperature or pressure is varied, this law does not hold good. This law holds or applicable when temperature and pressure are being fixed. If temperature and pressure are changed, what happens? Volume will changes. Volume increases with increase in the temperature and the volume decreases with increase in the pressure. Because of that reason, under the similar conditions of temperature and pressure, when two gases are combining together to form a gaseous product, they always combine in a simple ratio by their values to produce a gaseous product in the simple ratio of its value. Right? So the gases reactant and the gaseous products will always be a simple ratio of their values. Hope it is clear. Right? And that's all for today. Remaining will continue next class.